Hey everyone, Rarity Dash Share. Time for another Patreon sponsor, Blind Reaction. And this one comes to you courtesy of Talking Head Productions, who has requested that I react to a video called The Bizarro Solution. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, by Nando vs. Movies. So yeah, this is a video related to Batman vs. Superman, which I did see. I saw it when it came out, saw it in theaters, and I mean, I wasn't really impressed, gotta be honest. I don't think I hated it as much as some people do, but it wasn't really a good movie. I don't honestly remember it that well. It kind of just, yeah, it didn't stay with me. It just wasn't really something worth remembering. It was just, yeah, not very good. I don't know. But I'm interested to see a video about it. Hopefully this will be entertaining. I don't really know fully what this is, but hopefully it will be something worth watching. Let's get started and find out. Here we go.
I'm on the record as not being a huge fan of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah,
I think it's a big mess. If you like it, that's fine. I know plenty.
A lot of people can say that.
Worst movies, some in the very same cinematic universe.
What, we some kind of
oh, yeah. I mean, that wasn't very good either.
What really disappointed me in BVS was the big finale. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, for some reason, facing off against Lex Luthor's monster should have been amazing. And yet, it was fine. And there were a lot of things wrong with that whole third act, but I think there's one small change.
I kind of remember that.
It creates a more satisfying conclusion and sets up a more interesting DCEU going forward. And that change is the monster that Luthor makes to fight Superman is not Doomsday, but another Superman villain known as Bizarro. In case you aren't,
and there we have the title.
Is a classic Superman villain from the comics and TV shows and cartoons and video games and roller coasters and Seinfeld episodes. He debuted back in 1958.
He's in a Seinfeld episode.
Ever since. He's Superman's exact opposite. He's still strong and can fly, but Bizarro wears a purple and yellow costume. Instead of heat vision and freeze breath, he has freeze vision and heat breath. Usually ranges from somewhere between being a big dummy to your standard evil villain. Bizarro addresses my big three gripes with Doomsday. Lex isn't involved enough in creating Doomsday. Doomsday isn't an interesting foil for Superman, and Doomsday is too strong for Batman to fight. So I'm going to go through how Bizarro fixes those issues one by one and give you a look at what this Bizarro version of Batman v Superman might look like. First, Bizarro gives Lex more to do. In Batman v Superman, Doomsday's created when Lex walks into the birthing matrix, drops Zod into the Kryptonian crockpot, and presses the Hulk button. And that matches Doomsday's comic history. He's an alien experiment. That's pretty much it. Bizarro, on the other hand, is almost always a clone of Superman, created by Lex specifically to fight Superman. Lex doesn't ask the computer to teach him, he figures it out on his own. Because in the comics, Lex is a super genius. And in the movies, he should be too. Lex's monsters should be 100% Luthor innovation, so that we, the audience, get the feeling that Lex Luthor can science pretty much anything.
Yeah. Already this is pretty smart.
Smartest man on Earth, and he solves almost every one of his problems with science. Granted, those problems are almost always Superman isn't dead yet, but Lex attacks that problem from
that's a pretty big problem from his perspective.
Engineering to design Superman killing robots. He uses his mastery of programming to upgrade Brainiac. He uses his mastery of biology and chemistry to synthesize serums that give him superpowers, and he uses his mastery of, I guess, physics to make a time machine. People will say, oh, that wouldn't be realistic if he were that smart. Maybe. If the DCEU Superman is going to be strong enough to get hit with a nuclear weapon, his nemesis needs to be smart enough to cure cancer.
Yeah.
In comics is a thing that he did. Lex found a cure for cancer and AIDS, but he didn't give away the cure because he's a bad guy. He did cure it because that's just something Lex can do. So in this Bizarro version of the movie, Lex is in his own secret lab working on his Kryptonian experiment throughout the entire movie. Maybe he's still using Zod's body, but the machinery and method is all his own. And perhaps to tie all the plans together, after 12 failed experiments, Lex realizes that to make his Superman clone, he needs a sample of fresh Kryptonian DNA.
Dear Blade.
I know, right? That not only further ties this clone to Superman, but it also gives Lex a good reason to engineer the fight between Batman and Superman. See, in the original Batman v Superman, Lex seems to want Superman and Batman to fight because he wants one to kill the other, which is also what he wants Doomsday to do. And if Batman kills Superman, like he almost does, there's no one left to stop Doomsday, especially if when Doomsday gets out of the birthing matrix, the first thing he does is, try to kill Lex. That's pretty short-sighted, and Lex should not be short-sighted. So Lex realizes that
very
that
true.
to complete his monster, he needs super DNA.
I mean, Lex
He can't
Luthor pretty
get
much
that
was
by
just the
himself,
biggest
so he
problem with this
manipulates
film.
Batman into fighting Superman for him. He doesn't care about the
Maybe.
outcome of the BVS fight. It's just a means to
There
get
are a lot of
Superman's
problems.
blood. And whoever wins, Lex wins. Batman kills Superman, Superman is dead, point for Lex. Superman kills Batman, Batman is dead, and Superman is a killer, point for Lex. Lex always wins. So once Batman gets a good kryptonite-aided hit on the Man of Steel, a drone or something can collect a sample of Superman's blood and bring it over to Lex. Look at what we have now. Lex is in his own secret lab using his own tools and his own methods to make his own Superman clone that he alone can control. Lex being more active makes him a more menacing villain. Okay, so the experiment's complete.
I mean, you still
Batman
might
Superman
might
fight
have to
goes
go with a
exactly
different
the same way it
portrayal.
did in the movie. We
I
don't need all the
just
Martha business.
cast a
Maybe
different
instead
actor.
There's some other word that Batman's parents said during the murder that Superman could say to remind Batman that he's just as bad as the mugger that killed his parents. I don't love the idea of Superman's loved ones constantly getting kidnapped. It gets old fast. But then maybe after he sees some sort of vapor trail left by the drone, Superman realizes that Luthor set this whole thing up and he shows up at the lab. The experiment is nearly complete. Superman bursts in and Luthor and Superman talk a bit. Superman can ask Lex why Lex wants to kill him. Luthor can go on about how he doesn't care if Superman is killed. He just wants the world to see Superman the way he does, as a monster. And then the experiment is finished. The metal pod pops open and Luthor's monster rises out. And he looks like a warped version of Superman with his own outfit and has a slightly different coloring, closer to purple, so we can tell the monster and Superman apart. But this is important. What does Doomsday represent? He's strength and power and strength. That's kind of it. He's a force of nature that was created by the writers to kill Superman. The end. But what is Bizarro?
Always kind of a boring
Bizarro
villain.
is the mirror version of Superman, a destructive, terrifying, amoral monster. He is a dangerous alien, and in the context of Man of Steel is the image that every Superman hater projects onto Superman. Luthor dresses his monster like Superman so that the destruction will come from another Superman, and no one will ever trust the real Superman again. That's what Luthor wants. Now Superman
guy's pretty
is not
smart.
only fighting for the safety of his city, but he's fighting for the purity of his identity. He has to protect it from Luthor. And this is a small thing, but the project is called the Zod Rebirth Operation. So when the creature emerges from the pod, the first thing he sees is his reflection in the metal door of the pod, and he reads ZRO, preceded by the number 13, since this is his 13th try, and he mistakes the 13 for a B, sounding out Bizarro. We never have to call him that again, but now it's canon. Hooray. So now a fight breaks out
yeah,
between
that
Superman
works.
and Bizarro. Bizarro can hate Superman for any number of reasons. Maybe Lex can control Bizarro and he just tells him to fight. Maybe the General Zod that's still in the clone because it's based off of General Zod's body still hates Superman. I think that's how Batman v Superman explains it. Maybe Bizarro just sees Superman and he's like, no, you're an imposter. I'm the real Superman. Could be any number of reasons. But this fight starts and it looks and feels a lot like the fight from Man of Steel. That's on purpose because that was the low point of Superman's adult life and he's been taking heat for it throughout this whole movie. Should he have focused as much as he did on Zod or should he have saved more people? And he's learned from it. Now Superman plays it differently. He makes a clear effort to get Bizarro out of the city. When that doesn't work, he makes sure that Bizarro doesn't hit any buildings so he can minimize the collateral damage. But eventually, Bizarro gets the better of Superman and slams him into the building. And oh no, the building starts coming down. Now Superman has to either keep fighting the villain to prevent further destruction or save the people that are in danger now. And even though characters have been talking about the Zod fight all movie and he has heard every side of the argument, Superman doesn't yet know what the right decision is. It's a classic superhero trolley problem. Superman has to make an impossible choice. But before he makes that choice, out of the sky comes the Batwing and from it emerges Batman. He's armed with some new kryptonite toys. He looks Superman dead in the eye and says, save them. And he grabs a set of kryptonite daggers and says, I'll take care of him. Now, Superman gets to show why he is an integral part of the team. Besides being able to pick up a building, Superman inspires people. He's a symbol of hope, a beacon, and he inspires other heroes to come together and work with each other to tackle problems that they couldn't face alone. This is, in my opinion, a huge gap that Batman v Superman did not clear. For Superman's death to be effective, we need everyone to be on the same page about Superman.
Yeah.
He's nearly universally loved. And while he sacrifices himself, a lot of
Pretty
people
cheap
felt like
sequel
that wasn't
hook.
enough. Superman had to do more to earn back.
I never
the
did see
public
the,
trust. So now, while Batman
Justice
is keeping
League movie.
Bizarro busy, Superman can save people. He can catch buildings.
So
He can
unimpressed
put out
by this
fires.
I was.
Superman gets to be Superman. And to really drive that point home, the first Superman and Bizarro fight, before Batman shows up, can be shot from the citizens' point of view. Just like the first scene of this movie shows Superman and Zod fight. This time, crazy shit is going down in the sky. Maybe people see what they believe to be Superman, but it turns out to be Bizarro. He gets ready to heat blast a building, but right before he can, Superman comes in and blocks the blast. And the citizens can react. Clearly, Superman is fighting for them. Having Bizarro and Superman on the same screen can demonstrate to Superman detractors what Superman is by showing him what he isn't. Superman isn't a monster. Bizarro is the monster. Superman is fighting the monster to save them. It's a big distinction, and it's the distinction that Man of Steel failed to make. That juxtaposition can justify the public universally loving Superman after his death. In my mind, the biggest technical problem with the finale was that once Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman joined up to fight Doomsday, Batman had absolutely nothing to do. He just hides behind seemingly indestructible walls and runs away. And Batman isn't supposed to be able to fight Doomsday. Really, only Superman is supposed to be able to fight Doomsday. Bizarro, on the other hand, he's an evil Superman. That's exactly what Batman has been training to fight this entire time. Let's give an opportunity to just let loose. Use some new kryptonite weapons and those fancy acrobatics. This is Batman's time to show everyone why he is an integral part of the Justice League. He's always 5 steps ahead. And while he may not have been right about Superman, he was prepared for an evil Kryptonian, and right now that preparation is paying off. And yes, Superman fans, I'm aware that Bizarro isn't traditionally weak against green kryptonite. He's weak against blue kryptonite because opposite. But in an effort to simplify things for this rewrite, I'm going to ignore that and say that Bizarro is
I think that's fair.
Maybe in the future, Lex could make a new Bizarro, and that one can be weak against blue kryptonite, but for this movie, I think it would be too confusing. Oh, and also, this version does not contain Wonder Woman. At least not as Wonder Woman. That espionage, kind of flirting with Bruce stuff, that's fine. Leave her in as a mystery woman, and then that gets explained in the Wonder Woman movie. And we can give her a good reason to not be around. Maybe she's in another country, whatever. I love what Gal has done with the character, but this movie is about the conflict between Batman and Superman.
I mean, she was the best part of the movie,
those
so
two working together.
That's kind of a shame getting rid of her. I get it.
Bizarro cause. We get Superman and Batman fighting side by side, and it's amazing. Think Cap and Bucky v Iron Man from Civil War. They're firing on all cylinders. Batman has studied Superman's fighting style, so he's able to pick it up immediately and join in. Maybe Batman pulls out even more kryptonite weapons, and Superman asks, well, why didn't you use those on me? Batman can smirk and reply, didn't need to. We've got that friendly rivalry that makes their relationship so much fun. And if you really want to kill Superman, which I don't think you should do until at least the end of the first Justice League, I have 2 suggestions. They don't really have that much to do with Bizarro, but I think they're better in fitting into this new version of the movie. Option 1. So at the end of the fight, Batman grabs a spear, because of course he does. It's not going to hurt him, and it's his spear, and he attempts to kill Bizarro. But at the last minute, he's blasted away and can't do it. Superman looks at the people of Metropolis, picks up the spear, says to Batman, save them, turns to Bizarro and says, I'll take care of him. Batman feels guilty, Superman dies, Batman spends the next movie trying to bring Superman back. Whatever, it's fine. Option 2, my favorite option. So after all this fighting, our heroes realize that even working together might not be enough to stop Bizarro. Say the kryptonite spear isn't working, or he breaks it, or whatever. So Superman does the only remaining thing that he thinks might work. Superman flies Bizarro into space, like in Batman vs. Superman. They fight a bit in space, but it isn't looking good for Superman. And the government is also watching this fight. They have this big discussion about whether or not to use a nuclear weapon to destroy Bizarro. Fun fact, in Bizarro's first comic appearance, Superboy attempts to kill Bizarro by convincing the army to hit him with an atom bomb. So this happens a lot. Some of the president's advisors are worried it'll kill Superman. Others see flashbacks of the Zod fight and don't want to risk it. Others don't even think the nuke will work. But eventually, the president decides that he should call his science advisor to see if he thinks it's a good idea. The president makes the call, and who picks up on the other line but Lex Luthor? And he says, listen, I don't want to do this, but this might be our only shot. If we don't kill the monster now, he might destroy the planet. Then we see him smile. He says, nuke Superman. So Superman gets nuked. Bizarro is killed, but Superman falls back down to Earth and lands in the ocean. Can't imagine how he comes back in Justice League, but no one can find him. So funeral, sad Batman. Batman is now suspicious of Luthor, but Superman never actually told Batman about Luthor, so it's all just a theory. We can still have that drop in where Batman interrogates Luthor, but Luthor isn't a public bad guy, so Batman can't really do anything about it. And my favorite part, because Eisenberg's strange take on Luthor can pay off in a big way, is now Luthor is the man who saved the planet. He's working with the president. He's in the political sphere. And in a post-credits scene, he's talking to Amanda Waller, and he mentions that he's thinking of going into politics. A nod to Lex becoming the president of the United States in the comics. This is extra cool because Eisenberg plays his Luthor a lot like he plays his Zuckerberg from The Social Network. And it is very likely that in the near future, the real Mark Zuckerberg will run for public office.
Yeah.
So this new Lex Luthor becoming the
don't
president
think that's
is
going to
going
go well.
to be even more believable than it is in the comics. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you think this worked, if you have another way that you would have fixed Batman v Superman, if you think I'm just flat out wrong. I really appreciate all the comments, and I try to read and respond to as many as I can. Like and share this video with friends of yours, especially friends that weren't super happy with Batman v Superman. And finally, and most importantly, and a lot of people are doing this, which is great, subscribe to this channel. I make a bunch of these videos. I'm trying to make more now that I've got a lot more people watching. The most recent one I did was about how Hela from Thor Ragnarok is based on a lot more comic characters than you might expect. I also did one that's kind of similar to this, about how I thought Spider-Man could have been introduced in Civil War in a way that was a little bit more organic. And finally, you can follow me on Twitter at a new Twitter account that I created specifically for this. It's twitter.com/NandoVMovies. That's all I've got. See you next time.
Okay, well there we go. That was pretty smart. I think that would make it come together quite a bit better. I mean, there's still probably more that you got to fix with the movie, and even I still say it'd probably be better to replace Jesse Eisenberg entirely, but I don't know. I guess that is. It could maybe be done well with that, I guess. That Bizarro works well in that role. I think that actually would make a lot of sense. I think they just wanted to go for Doomsday because of the nod to death of Superman, and that's all they were thinking about. And it wasn't about making a coherent story. It's about having just that that iconic thing included that people know about. Because the Death of Superman, that's one of the more like successful single comic books ever. That was like there were like mainstream stories about that. So they wanted that, and that's really all they were thinking about, I guess. Because this would have worked a lot better. This would have made a lot more sense with what they had set up, and it would have definitely given Batman more to do. I mean, Doomsday, as said, is way out of his just way too much of a match for him. Way beyond his reach. Bizarro would have been a lot a lot better, but would have been a shame to lose Wonder Woman, though. I mean, that movie, she's like one of the best parts of it, as said, but for the most part, I really agree with what he was saying. He really seems to have a good perspective on this and seems to understand what would make it a lot better. I hadn't even. I don't really think like this. I don't really think about how you could make the movies better. I just think about whether they're good or not. I think. I'm impressed with his ability to kind of figure out an easy way to fix some of the core problems with how the movie went, and it really would have been a lot better. Get this guy writing your superhero movies, I guess. I don't know. There we go. Good stuff. Good video. Hope you liked the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.